Oh hey, thanks for joining me. This video is part of the NationGen for Mew series, which is a MagicGen game, meaning that all of the spells in the game are randomly generated. In this video, I'm going to be looking through the fire spells. Let's start in Conjuration. So level 0, nothing, good start. Level 1, we get Conjure Organized Firebird in combat. 200% cast time summons a Firebird that has Formation Fighter 6. That's pretty cool. I don't think Firebirds are amazing combatants though, so maybe not. We also get Conjure Large Tiny Fire Elemental. So let me just explain to you what a large tiny fire elemental is. First off, they have the appearance of a size 6 Firely, or thereabouts. They're pretty big anyway in the battle, but their stats are more similar to a size 1 Firely. The yellow text actually says that they're size 1. They're not though, they're size 2, but they have 6 hit points. And usually size 1s have 5 hit points, so they don't even have like size 1 stats. They have like some special stat arrangement. They have like 13 strength as well. Confusing units. But there we go. Level 2 we get Phoenix Power. This is for the caster. Grants +1 fire magic. I think Phoenix Power usually also gives you fire res, right? I could be wrong. Nothing at 3. At 4 we then get Improved Phoenix Power, which is AoE 15 fire +1 fire magic. So that's very nice. Just need to get to 4 for that, and you can just give all your fire mages +1 pretty easily. Level 5 we have Conjure Fire Snakes in combat. Gives you 4 fire snakes for a gem. That's not too bad. The fire snake is a serpent with venomous fangs, which also badly burns its enemies. Sounds good to me. We also have a national spell as the Nation of Idbal. Enlist Adventurers. So 125 cast time, has 5 effects. Summons a random adventurer for the battle. So this could potentially be a nature mage, a fire mage, a death mage, a priest, a shortbowman, or a crossbowman. Yeah, usually you get events that give you adventurers, and there's all kinds of them. That's pretty random. You could potentially get a lot of mages out of this, or you could just get some dudes. So, you know, kind of, I don't know, not very consistent, but might be a good spell, because it does give you 5 of them. An F3 mage can then use a gem to do a massive fire elemental. So this would be easy for us to do, because we have lots of F2 mages, and they can easily give themselves firepower. So, size 6 Firely, 125 cast time, 1 gem. At level 5 Conjuration. Looks pretty familiar. And then we also have a ritual for salamanders. 17 of them, +2 per level, for just 3 gems. That's not too bad. Last time we did a MagicGen game on the channel, we also merged some of the JBBM changes, so salamanders were really good because they had Mind Blasts. That is not the case in this game, so these are just regular salamanders. That I think are garbage because they have 20 fatigue. And, yeah, no ranged attacks. But, you know, that's a lot of them, though. They do have Heat Aura and stuff, right? So lots of Heat Aura blockers is probably pretty good anyway. Level 6 Ritual then. F3 D2. We cannot naturally cast this, I don't think. 25 fire gems gives you a Ritual. So this spell allows the mage to designate a distant allied fortification. In times of need, portals of fire will open and spill out various magical creatures onto the walls. So this is a ritual that gives you a province enchantment that gives you extra wall defenders. So it summons 10 creatures multiplied by the fort defender value, which corresponds roughly to the upgrade level of the fort. The effect ends if the province is lost or the caster is killed. If the spell is cast on a province before it is besieged, any sieger will be aware of its presence. The spell does not function if cast on the same turn as a storm. So this can potentially put Fire Drake's Zmei, or shrunken versions of same, on walls in defenses. That's pretty cool. That does require, what was it? 20 fire gems though? Still, that might turn the tide in a very even fort defense. And an F4 mage can do ambushes of flame. The caster summons and directs a stealthy creature to a remote province of his choosing. Every month, one commander affiliated with any pretender gods will be ambushed by random magical creatures. This continues until the sneaking creature is found and killed. That's pretty funny. So it creates an independent ambushing Calcaturos commander, and while it lives, one random non-independent non-sneaking commander in the targeted province will be assassinated by one of the creatures below. Multiple castings of the spell will produce multiple stealth commanders, but only one attack can occur per turn, regardless of how many are present. That's a really interesting effect. You're summoning an independent stealthy commander that just triggers assassinations. And these are some pretty nasty assassins as well. Awesome Firebird, Exploding Salamander, Small Dragon, Shrunken Magma Child, Large Magma Child, Tiny Golden Golem, Demon Slaying Fire Elemental, base size 1, Shrunken Fire Drake, Firely. Yeah, that could be really annoying. We could probably set that up. F4. Just need to forge some boosters for ourselves. What a cool spell effect. Level 7, we have a ritual to do Fire Snakes, 25 plus 3. For just 6 fire gems, not too bad. The Kindly One's global is in the game. Only needs 40 fire gems, and so is Eternal Pyre as well. So, very familiar. Nothing at 8, and then at 9, an F3 mage in combat can conjure Acid Will-o'-the-Wisps. 25% cast time gets you 2 of them. And this does not require a gem either, so every F3 mage can just spam this. Gives you Will-o'-the-Wisps with 14 acid damage. The white text says that the acid is released when struck in melee, which makes it sound like they have acid shield. But then the yellow text says summon creatures gain 14 AP acid splash. Not acid shield. Which kind of sounds like the acid attack that gelatinous cubes have. So I'm not sure exactly which it is. I think it's probably just acid shield though, right? Maybe. Probably not going to see this though since it's at Conjuration 9, so let's not worry about it. Alteration spells next. So nothing at 0. At 1 we have Combustion. 25%, 25 range, 50% cast time, 5 fatigue. Cause combustion in one opponent. And protection from fire. So 10 fire resistance with a 200% cast time is a bit uncomfortable. But still, it's some fire res if we really need it. Level 2 we have Glass Dust. So this does 3 points of armor negating untyped damage in 25 range. That's already kind of nice, only has 10 fatigue cost. 1 precision though, might be kind of hard to aim. It then does Irritate Eyes, which irritates eyes presumably, and then also does Internal Bleeding. The caster melts tiny amounts of rock or sand into a hard glass-like substance and launches them upwards on currents of heated air or water. The glass shards will lacerate the bodies of all those in the area. Living creatures will inhale them, causing internal bleeding. Additionally, there is a small chance that glass may end up in victims' eyes. I'm not sure what Irritate Eyes is, maybe blindness? And then internal bleeding is the bleeding status with the internal type so that it hits ethereal things? Not sure, but that's an interesting spell. Probably going to be really hard to aim though, unfortunately. And Burst of Glass as well. This is presumably an AoE version of the same thing, it looks like it. So AoE 4, Precision 1, takes a gem. Very easy to cast at least. Might be a fun one to try spamming. We have Incinerate at 3. This is 12 points of armor negating damage, 2 point scaling, 30 range, 200% cast time unfortunately. At 4 we have Burning Acidify Blood. So this is in combat. If you have fire and water, you can use a gem to do an AoE 4, 100% precision, 17 plus 2 point scaling, armor negating magic damage. MR negates, doesn't affect inanimates, also does some heat in the same AoE. So this attempts to turn someone's blood to acid. So the damage is dealt like poison, which is also interesting. I wonder how exactly this works. I guess this is a... I feel like damage dealt as poison, doesn't that usually have the poison type? Or maybe it's 2 different things. I can't remember. No, maybe it's like a DT thing, damage type thing. I'm not sure. Yellow text implies it's a poison effect though, so it's damage over time. But it looks just like a blast of armor negating damage with some fatigue effect on top. Who knows though. Nice one. We don't have any Fire-Water Crosspath, unfortunately, so probably not going to use it anyway. We have a national spell, Fiery Warping Mist. So this doesn't require a gem and only requires F1, and it has an AoE 19 plus 2 scaling. That already sounds interesting, regardless of what it does. Precision 3, Lingering, so it lingers for 4 turns as well. So what exactly does this big cloud do? It does 1 point of armor negating damage. No, this is a... I actually can't tell how this works. It doesn't say extra effect or extra effect on damage. Just 2 things. That's really odd. So there's some kind of lingering AoE that has no effect associated with it. But then there's also extra fire? I'm so confused how this has been implemented. Something clever is going on, I assume. The caster heats parts of armor of many enemies, causing it to warp and distort. It doesn't harm the victim, but may destroy their armor. Spell is infused with fire that may be discharged on those it affects, burning them from the insides. Spell forms a cloud on the battlefield. Okay. Excess damages the armor, minus 20% protection. Damaging already damaged armor breaks it. Doesn't affect magic armor. So it seems to be a cloud that damages armor, but then also does damage? It looks interesting though, because the top part doesn't have any effect listed with it. Like the way the second part has damage, so you can see what it does, this doesn't have any kind of effect. Peculiar. But let's just take the spell's word for it, that's what it does. Interesting, it's a national spell we can spam, we can definitely try it out at some point. We also have Smoke Troops. AoE 6 Mistform. Sounds very nice. Doesn't require a gem either. At 5 we have Acidify Blood. 1 person gets unresisted, gets magic resisted, armor negating damage. This doesn't have the fatigue effect, it has the same yellow text about being implemented as poison. Interesting. At 6 we have Improved Burst of Glass, so 25 plus 5 scaling range, 10 plus 1 scaling AoE for the Burst of Glass effect. Interesting. That does require a gem. And Phoenix Power is in the spellbook, looks like. 200% cast time though. This has extra effect, Phoenix Resistance. So I assume this is just Phoenix Pyre. I wonder what the extra effect Phoenix Resistance AoE 1 is then. Very strange. Let's just assume that this is just Phoenix Pyre though. 7 we have Incinerate, an F2 mage can use a gem to cast this. This is an AoE 7 plus 1 scaling version of armor negating damage. Cannot be resisted by magic resistance, so that starts to look very interesting. We can probably spam that quite easily. Scales very nicely in range as well. And it's one of the few fire spells that can be used underwater. Wow, so Incinerate seems like a nice milestone to hit for pure damage. It does take gems though. But we can always give people fires in jars. And Conflagration. So this is... every single thing on the battlefield is affected by combustion, including friendlies. Funny one. At level 8 we have Gift of the Phoenix. So this is Phoenix Pyre in an AoE 1, also has the Phoenix Resistance. Also grants plus 10 fire resistance. I assume that's what the Phoenix Resistance is then. Did the previous spell say that and I just didn't read it? I did, okay. So Phoenix Resistance is 10 fire resistance in an AoE 1, that's quite nice. Improved Glass Dust, yet more versions of the Glass Dust spell. So this is an AoE 4, only has a 10 fatigue cost. That's pretty funny, it does require F4 to cast though. Unless we have Courageous Warriors of Flame. Grants 5 fire resist and ethereality, with a 12% cast time and a 17 plus 2 AoE. That's very funny. It also gives you plus 10 morale. Fantastic. That's very cool. Very powerful as well. And an F6 mage can use 3 gems to do Glass Cascade. Is this the entire battlefield? It is. Also hits friendlies. So we can throw glass shards into everybody's eyes if we really want to at Alteration 9. Very interesting. Evocation. Oh, this is a big one. We got Parching Gale, a gem. Wow. So this does 1 point of armor piercing magic damage. No magic resistance. in an AoE 9 with a 250 cast time at very long range. It then does heat, and then dry skin, and then dehydration. So we have the initial damage, and then fatigue, and then they must make an MR check or gain bark skin, which gives them protection but also gives them fire vulnerability, and then make an easy MR check or suffer desiccation. Wow, interesting spell. So we can give people fire vulnerability at the cost of also giving them some protection. And then, yeah, dehydrate. And that's quite a lot of fatigue damage then, if nothing gets resisted. Although the first two parts can't be resisted, so I'll always do this bit of fatigue damage. That's at level 0, what a cool spell, it does take a gem though. Flame Cloud, AoE 2, Lingering 3, Flame Cloud, Armor Piercing, damage. Level 2 then, you have Fire and Earth, you can do Eruption of Magma. So this is 21 plus 3 scaling points of just magic blunt damage in AoE 1 with 200% cast time. And it adds Lingering Heat where it hits. So that's pretty cool actually. Scorching Air, F2. Only has a 5 fatigue cost and a 50 range. Not great precision though. 12 points of armor negating fire damage. Plus 2 scaling, also does some fatigue damage as well. Pretty nice. Flame Cloud needs a gem. Looks like a bigger version of Flame Cloud. And Scalding Fog, an F4 mage can use a gem to do a very big AoE 8 plus 1 scaling, Lingering 4, Fire Cloud it looks like. So 1 point of armor negating fire, magic fire damage. Pretty cool. Not too hard to cast, we can just buff ourselves up to do that. At level 3 we have Touch of Frostfire. So this is an AoE 4, 100% precision, 50% cast time. Oh, it's only range 3. Damn, that's too bad. And it's armor piercing damage that has 2 damage types. I think that means it alternates, right? Or no, maybe... I'm actually not sure how it works when it's elemental types. It looks like it's going to be kind of hard for this to actually deal any damage though. Although, I mean, 18 points of AP damage isn't... probably pretty good. And then it also, if it damages you, it also does elemental exposure. And those wounded by it are simultaneously frozen and set on fire. I wonder if that's what elemental exposure is. It's like numbness and combustion or something? I'm not sure. Strange one, probably not going to use it since it's range 3 anyway, but... yeah, pretty cool. Improved Acid Rain only needs F1. AoE 1, 100% cast time, 10 points of magical, armor piercing, acid damage that also does rust. Pretty interesting since it's so easily cast. Parching Wind, so this is more of the damage plus fatigue plus bark skin plus desiccation. And Fire Glob. Range 40, 50% cast time, that's quite nice. AoE 1. Not very accurate. 3 fatigue cost? What is that? Well, that's pretty easy to cast. That almost looks like a bug, like it should have been 30. 16 points plus 2 scaling of magical armor piercing fire damage. It also does an AoE 5 fatigue effect. That seems really good. We don't have any natural fire resistance on our troops, unfortunately. But that seems really good to spell. Well, at level 3? That's like a nice early milestone to hit, I think. Very spammy, very long range. It's like incredibly easy to cast. Only needs F2 as well. Wow. At level 4 then we have Improved Parching Gale, more of this spell. Okay. That needs a gem. It is a AoE 27 plus 3, interesting. And Banefly Cloud, if you have F3, D2, you can spend a gem to do 250 cast time, AoE 1, 100 fatigue, 39 plus 3 scaling points of untyped armor piercing magic damage that lingers? Damn. That's pretty crazy. Also does decay. That is a big cloud. Kind of hard to cast though. I don't think our nation can cast that at all. Level 5, you can use a gem to do Magma Eruption if you have Fire and Earth. So this is the magical blunt damage spell. Pretty cool. Charring Bolts of Magma. AoE 2. More of this magic blunt damage type thing. Also does heated magma for 1 AoE 8 plus 2 points of armor piercing magical fire damage. And then more of the same, additional fire. This one's difficult to negate with magic resistance. So lots of kind of cascading damage. Pretty cool. And that was 2 bolts, yeah. Acid Blast if you have F2 Water 2, which we do not. You can spend a gem to do AoE 6 version of the acid stuff. And Drying Ball of Flame. So this is range 30, 50 cast time, AoE 1 projectile that does armor piercing fire damage, and then also does desiccation. Pretty cool. Level 6 we have Improved Banefire Cloud. I mean the last one was pretty cool, so yeah. Damn, lingering for 33 points of armor piercing magic damage, plus decay. Shame we don't have this cross path. Flame Burst, if you have F2, you can do AoE 7, 20 points of armor piercing fire damage. Pretty good. Fire Blast. This is AoE 10, plus 1 scaling, range 40, more armor piercing fire damage with heat aura effect. Pretty good. And finally, Improved Flame Cloud, AoE 5, 8 plus 1 scaling points of armor piercing fire damage that lingers for 3 turns. Nice Flame Cloud. 7 then we have Scalding Haze, if you have a bit of air. This is AoE 8, 1 point of armor negating fire damage. That's pretty cool actually. That'll be hard to walk through. That'd be really easy to stack on the battlefield as well if you have this cross path. Doesn't need a gem. It is 80 fatigue though. Not super spammy, but still. And a ritual, F5, 16 fire gems, barrage of embers. This looks like fires from afar type thing. So fires 30 bolts, plus 4 scaling, 12 points of armor piercing damage, plus 1 scaling. Pretty nice. 8 then we have Improved Parching Wind. This is a 22 AoE now. Pretty cool. And Volcanic Eruption, this is a ritual. So F4, Earth 2, 13 fire gems. Unleashes a volcano. 5 province range. 30 unrest, minus 30 population. That's going to be very uncomfortable if that lands on your cap a few times. At 9 then we have Molten Earth in combat. F4, 2 fire gems. This is range 40, 175 cast time, 19 plus 2 scaling AoE. Takes 2 gems. And does 55 plus 5 scaling points of armor piercing magical fire damage that lingers for 2 turns, and also petrifies you from the looks of things. You are protected from this spell if you fly or float, and can be negated entirely by defense, the solidifying rock part. Pretty interesting. You also have flames from the sky and fires from afar. So this version just strikes 50% of all units with 15 points of AP fire damage, and this version is 10 bolts, which could potentially hit people, or 30 points of armor piercing damage. So yeah, pretty interesting. Construction then. At 3 we have Flaming Weapons. This is a ritual you can use a gem to cast. Permanently gives you flaming weapons. Equivalent to the Bless, I believe. And you can also construct a Library of Flame for 35 fire gems. Creates a permanent magic site that allows the recruitment of pyromancers and mages of flames. Human F2 mages. Pretty nice, although, I mean, if you can do F3, do you really need to set up a Library of Flame? I don't know. Maybe if you find a fire mage and don't have it, and that can set you up. Well no, if you find a fire mage, you have fire mages. I don't know. I guess if you just want to scale up your fire mage production, you can do that. At level 5 in combat we can assemble a Summary Calcaturus for F3 E2 mages. Only one of them though. Takes a fire gem. They're pretty nice units though. At level 7 we get an improved version. 125 cast time, only takes 1 gem. Wait, this one also. Oh, it's just easier to cast, F1, E1. And there's also Golden Golem Ritual. So F4, S2, 35 gems, you can create a Golden Golem. It's a golem that has F2 Astral 1 or F1 Astral 2. It can only wear magical grounds and carry 2 miscellaneous items. Finally at 9 we have Summon Awesome Calcatoro. This is a ritual to give you 7 plus 1 scaling for 14 fire gems. They have 1 ore. And there's also, so if you have an F6 S5 caster, you can spend 15 fire gems to do a flame-wreathed golden golem attack. The caster constructs a golem from gold in a distant province and magically animates it. The golem attacks a commander found there before reverting back to regular gold. So this is an assassination. The golem is immensely strong and has some skill in fire and astral magic, as well as halting those of lesser mind that try to strike at it. The summoned creature is surrounded by magical flames. These flames harm those trying to attack in melee. So it's a golden golem with ore and fire shield. Assassination sounds pretty deadly. Very hard to cast though. Enchantment then. Wow, there are a lot of spells. 0 we have Overload Burning Will. AoE 5, 200 cast time. Stun is this? That's extra effect stun. So it gives you +4 magic resistance. And then if you fail a magic resistance check, you also get stunned. So it's a rough magic resistance buff. And Cauterize Wounds, which is a heal that also sets you on fire. So a rough heal. Pretty funny. Nothing at 1. 2 we get Crude Flaming Arrows. Gives you flaming arrows but also stuns you if you fail a magic resistance check, so rough flaming arrows. There's then 2 spells that require F2 and only take a gem. These both look really nice. So we have Barriers of Fire. That's AoE 8 Fire Shield with 100% cast time. So I can easily get that off 2 or 3 times on our troops as they move forwards. And Warriors of Summer, which is the same sort of thing, but it's it gives you a heat aura and 10 fire resistance. So I'm going to take Enchantment 2 as a very early target to get these 2 spells, because they're really nice buffs to just lay on people. AoE 8 and AoE 10 Fire Shield, Heat Aura, and Fire Resistance. Really nice, easy to cast spells, especially for our nation. Seem pretty cool. At level 3 then, we have an F3 mage can do Improved Fire Resist for a gem. So AoE 21 plus 3 scaling, plus 5 fire resistance buff. And Ward of Flames, this is a ritual. Requires F3 and 2 gems. This is Dome of Flaming Death, it looks like. If so, that seems very easy to cast. 2 gems? Nice. At level 4 we have Flaming Arrows. F2 mage can spend a gem to do Flaming Arrows for the whole battlefield. Doesn't affect enemies, thankfully. 5 we have Extinguishing Haze. So an F3 mage can do range 15, cast 100, AoE 3, lingering spell that grants fire resistance. That's quite nice. We have Vapor Flames in the spellbook for 5 fire gems. Also seems quite nice. And Fortified Firebound Power. An F5 mage can spend 38 fire gems in order to... Oh, it's a global enchantment. Okay, interesting. Every turn, each friendly province with a fort has 3 independent chances to be affected. Each chance is rolled individual for each province. The garrison may cause someone close to them to be harmlessly consumed by magical flames, increasing their ability in fire magic. Grants +1 fire magic to a random commander in the province, including commanders who had no fire magic to begin with. Paths cannot be raised above 4 in this way. Wow, so it triggers on a Dominion in forts to a limit of 3 per turn. This is a global that just gradually buffs all of your mages and commanders in fire magic. That seems really cool. Level 5 enchantment only requires 38 fire gems and F5. What a cool global. And Heat from Hell is also in the spellbook. F5, 2 fire gems. Looks like Heat from Hell, yeah. At 6 we have Haze of Heroic Skill. So in combat an F1 mage can do AoE 2, Unholy Power, lingers 4. That's really cool. That's terribly easy for us to kill. Lots of nice buffs for our troops in fire, in enchantment. And Advanced Phoenix Power. So the whole battlefield gets +1 fire magic. Nice. We have Improved Barriers of Fire then. F3 mage can spend a gem to Do Fire Shield in AoE 22 plus 3 scaling. Pretty nice. Force Protection from Cold. This is 12 cast time, 11 plus 1 scaling, 10 cold resistance buff. But it has a chance to paralyze you if you fail a magic resistance roll. Pretty cool. And then there's just Barriers of Fire. F5 Mage can spend 2 gems to give the entire battlefield Fire Shield. Pretty nice. 7 then we have Fire Fend, and F1 Mage can spend a gem to give the entire battlefield fire resistance, very convenient. And then an F4 Mage can use 3 gems to do Fire Arrow Warriors of Summer. So this gives the entire battlefield Heat Aura and 10 fire resistance. And then if you fail a magic resistance roll, you also get Flaming Arrows. So that's pretty cool. That is a very nice buff. That's at Enchantment 7 though, so quite a long way off, but that would be incredible. So everyone just gets Heat Aura, 10 Fire Res, and maybe Flaming Arrows. Wow, pretty good. Level 8 then, an F5 Mage can do a Ritual for 25 Fire Gems to do Flames of Haste. The recipient permanently gains combat spells, and permanently casts combat spells 60% faster. Wow, that's incredible. Flames of Haste at level 8. That would be really cool to put on a mage that's doing big spells. That's really cool. And 9 then we have Resilient Warriors of Muspelheim. So F4 Mage can use 2 gems to give the entire battlefield cold resistance, and also magic resistance if you fail a magic resistance roll. Very cool. Army of Heroic Prowess. Whole battlefield gets Unholy Power. Skill of Heroes. So this is F4 doesn't need a gem, and it's 20 plus 3 scaling Unholy Power. Wow. And an F5 Mage lastly can do 10 cold res in a 23 plus 3 AoE with a 17% cast time. Enchantment looks very good for fire magic. Yeah, lots of really interesting, very cool spells and buffs in there. And then Thaumaturgy as well. So at 0 we have Fever for a gem. AoE 7 Disease. That sounds annoying. And Shackles of Fire, which is fire... what's it called again? The Fire Shackle spell? 25 range, 1 person, 0 precision, 200% cast time. Doesn't look great. Nothing at 1. At 2 we have Berserk Wave. A fire magic can cast Berserk on friendlies in AoE 1. 200% cast time. At 3, Augury is in the spellbook. 4 Providence range, F2 Mage, 2 gems. And also a ritual to do Peasant Ambush. Requires F3 and 3 gems. The caster fills the minds of a common traveller in a distant province with a desire to take up arms and attack a hostile commander for him. Peasants are untrained and unarmoured, wielding pitchforks or similar makeshift weaponry. So this is a remote assassination spell from a peasant. So that might not be terribly effective, but it would be pretty funny to try out. At 4 we have a 5 gem ritual to do Pyre of Distant Focus. This creates a magic site, I think. Lasts 1 month plus 1 month per gem spent. Oh, it looks more like a province enchantment. It increases ritual range. Actually, can you attach ritual range increases to enchantments? I actually don't know. Although, no, the effect looks more like a site, doesn't it? The other spells that create sites usually say this will fail if it's in a province with 8 sites already. So I'm not sure how this is implemented exactly, but I would guess it's a site. Interesting. We can try it out at some point. At 5 we can do Sweltering Rage in combat. F1 Mages. This is... looks like Confusion. Or potentially Enrage. Let's see, there's a 50% chance that... yeah, Enrage. So it causes Enrage in a single target, 100% precision, magic resistance negates, and then extra effect is Persistent Heat. Those that fail to resist become gain a heat aura, but no fire resistance. That's pretty funny. You know, that could be effective, or it could be not effective, depending on how it ends up getting cast. But it's interesting anyway. At level 6 we have Detonate Soul. Requires F2, S2. One person, so this looks like Soul Slay, but then it also does Detonation, which is an AoE fire damage. So it's Soul Slay that makes you explode, which is very cool. I like that. We also have a national spell which looks extremely funny. So this requires F2, S2, which we can get quite easily on our mages, and 4 fire gems. And it is a remote assassination that summons a peasant, but the twist is that the peasant has Death Gaze, which I think is similar to, is it Ctobal Pass have that? Summon creatures gain a Gaze of Death attack. It is a beam weapon with a range of 15, AoE of 20. It inflicts 10 armor negating damage to those that fail a magic resistance check. That is very, very funny. I can't wait to try that out if we get that far, but Thaumaturgy 6 probably won't be a priority. But we'll see. There's also Eternal Brazier. An F5 mage can spend 50 fire gems to do a global enchantment that generates 3d6 fire gems per month, as long as there is a friendly province that is not under siege. Implying that it's implemented as event. And an F6 mage can spend 44 gems to do Call to Arms, which is also a global enchantment. Looks like it is a global that increases province defense. Grants 22 points of PD in affected provinces. I assume that means up to 22. And it doesn't just give you 22 every time it triggers, because that would be incredible if so. Nice one though. At 7 then, Dehydrate is F5, Water 3 and 3 fire gems. That is extremely hard to cast. What do you do exactly? Looks like Desiccation? Yeah, Desiccation for the whole battlefield. I don't think that's worth the cost, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's a nice fatigue effect to stick on the whole battlefield, right? You only need to cast it once. But yeah, very difficult to cast. Incendiary Mass Mental Burn. So this is the entire battlefield, including friendlies, get hit by 15 points of armor negating damage. MR negates. And then they also get set on fire. The caster attempts to burn the minds of all living creatures on the battlefield. Doesn't say undead are immune to it though. I guess mindless are immune to it. Yeah, that's one of those spells that you need, like, you know, you don't want to cast this on an army battle. This is like one strong mage against an army casts this, I think. Yeah, that's cool though. And Purgatory is in the spellbook as well, so the global Purgatory. At 8 we have Seething Rage in combat. F4 mage can spend 2 fire gems to do Rage for the whole battlefield, looks like. This is friendlies and enemies, it seems. So that's pretty funny. And Burning Mass Fever. F4, N2, 3 fire gems. The entire battlefield is affected by disease, followed by 1 point of armor negating fire damage. Pretty cool. Kinda need to be, what, undead if you're gonna be using that? Finally then at 9 we have Blazing Transformation in combat. F2, 2 gems. Wow, what is this? So this is a lot of effects. Let's just read the yellow text maybe, or let's read the whole thing, why not? So this is gonna do Blazing Transformation, and then Released Power, and then Embodiment of Flames, and then Remove Fatigue, and then Embrace Mortality. This spell is the last resort of the Fire Mage. Upon casting the spell, the mage's body and anyone standing immediately beside him are ripped asunder by the magical power released, causing the mage to instead appear as a being of pure fire. His ability in fire magic is greatly increased, and he becomes very resistant to fatigue, but in this state he will quickly wither and die should he survive the battle. Additionally, his ability to cast spells of other paths is diminished. So this spell transforms the caster into a spirit of unbound flame, and then inflicts decay and soul slay on the caster, and removes all of the caster's fatigue. The spirit has homesickness, spreads unrest, is useless for forging, rituals and researching, and gains a horror mark every turn. In exchange, this form boosts the caster's fire magic by 1, while lowering all other paths by 1. Additionally, the spirit has 50 reinvigoration and cast spells at double speed. Okay, that's incredible. Any items held by the caster are dropped as if the caster died in battle. Additionally, applies Twist Fate, Swiftness, Fire Shield, Phoenix Power, and Blood Surge. Anyone who is not the caster in the same square is killed by the released power. The spell will not be cast unless scripted. Thank goodness. Wow, yeah. So if you have some expendable fire mages, you could use this to turn a few of them into fire gods. It's kind of cool. And there's also Searing, Burning, Imprisonment. F4, 4 gems. You can hit the entire battlefield with something and then additional heat. It looks like it's Fetters of Fire or whatever it's called. And then some fatigue damage. Pretty cool. And then in Blood Magic, there's nothing. So there's the fire spells. That is a lot of fire spells. That feels a lot longer than the books in the old series. But perhaps fire is an outlier, who knows. Let me know what you think of the spells in the fire book. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that sounds really funny and really interesting. Special note goes to assassinating someone with a Death Gaze Peasant. I really hope I get to do that. But that's the end of this video. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, or perhaps mostly just listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the rest of the series.